Hello, everybody, and welcome into a special series of videos we'll be doing. We usually do a lot more draft coverage on the YouTube channel, and this year we're going to be doing some draft previews and mock drafts and stuff like that. So we got Dayton here. Dayton, how's it going?
It's pretty good, thanks. It's hey, every day is a little bit closer to the draft day, and that's the best part of the year.
For sure. And I know you've done mock draft. You did a mock draft for the Senators. That's what we're going to go through on this video. And we're going to talk about some other draft targets you have your eye on and late round steals, organizational needs, all that stuff. Just kind of doing a little bit of a primer for the draft coming up. And the Senators have the 21st overall pick in the first round. It's a little bit later than they're used to. They're usually up in the top 10, top 12. But because they made the playoffs, they actually have a lower pick for the first time in a while. But you can still get some really good players around the 20s, and we'll see who you picked in the mock draft here. But before we get to the mock draft, I know in the article you kind of set up how you did it. So maybe just give the viewers a bit of how you set this up.
Sure. And you're talking the one where I picked all the picks for the Senators, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are usually some really good mock draft tools that are they kind of come around on the internet about this time, and FC Hockey had one, and I thought, let's run it, see what it's like if I took over the Senators and just picked for them. What would I end up with? And just kind of to randomize it a little bit, so I'm not, I don't have the bias creep into all the first 20 picks and end up with the guy I really liked in the first place. So I thought, just to add a little bit of randomness to it, let's use one of these tools and see what I get, and then write down why I picked each one.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it. And, you did the simulation and got all the way to the 21st overall pick. Who did you choose 21st overall for the Senators in this mock draft?
Okay, for 21st, I picked Carter Bear, which I will admit I did not see coming, and I don't think will happen on the actual draft day. But the way it worked out is he fell to 21, and he's been talked about as a top 10 pick, or not a top 10 pick, but a top 10 talent before he had that nasty injury at the end. And I don't believe he did any of the fitness testing at the combine. He's still kind of recovering from that injury. So there is some questions. So he could drop from where he was initially projected. I don't think he's getting done on 21st. If he does, grab him immediately. This is a fantastically skilled player. The Senators have talked about adding skill and compete with their top pick. You don't get a lot better than either of those areas than with Carter Bear. He's a very driven player, was probably the best player for the Everett Silvertips last year, or I guess this year. He's very driven. He was named their captain. I think I might be confusing with someone else. There's a lot of prospects in my head. I think he got an award for like embodying the spirit. That's what it was. The spirit of the Everett Silvertips. So he's just a very driven player, competes hard at every shift, got a great, offensive sense, plays a pretty good two-way game too. But offense is his bread and butter. And that's, a really, really good player to get at 21.
Yeah, he was an alternate captain for the
Silvertips. Yes.
So he was part of the leadership group for sure. So and 82 points this season. So that 40 goals. Yeah, be a really great pick for the Senators if he does fall to 21. He is not, he is ranked by some to go around there. Craig Button's got him at 24, 21 from McKeen's Hockey. But there are a lot that are in the top 10, top 15 area. So, it's kind of interesting where he might go. He might drop to the 20s. Who knows? So, but in this one, he did. And the Senators, of course, picked him up. And that'd be a great first round pick for them if that actually happens, for sure. All right, let's jump to the second round, 94th overall. Who did you get there?
Third round, actually. They don't have a second
Or
round.
third round, 94th overall, third round. Yes.
Yeah, right at the end of the third round, another guy I didn't expect to see, and that was Simon Wang or Hao-Chi Wang, or actually pronounced Wang, I think. Yes. Anyways, he is a 6'6" defenseman who kind of came out of nowhere. Was playing Junior A in Ontario, and then played a few games with the Oshawa Generals to close out the season. Looked very good. He's a surprisingly good skater for standing 6'6". Like, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he's good for his size," meaning that he's not a great skater, but he's fine. This guy's a good skater. Like, forget that he's 6'6". He can keep up with anybody else on the ice and beat them in foot races. So he's got a lot of really high end potential. Of course, playing in Junior A, he's still very raw, and maybe that's why this simulator had him drop so far, because they do use the FC rankings. And so, of course, there's always going to be a little bit of bias no matter what you use. But yeah, he looks really promising. The Senators could always use more defense, and they love size. So that's kind of what I went. And, maybe there is a potential like Victor Hedman in there. That's a very generous comparison, but he's got kind of that offensive style, the size, the reach, the movement. Given some time, that might be his peak potential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a big defenseman there, and he would become the first Asian born player to be drafted. Right? I think that's what it is.
Second, I believe.
Second. Yeah, I think there was another in the third round. And this is pick 97. This is still the third round. Or are we into the fourth now? It's really cool. So fourth round, beginning of the fourth round. My math has to go. So yeah, beginning of the fourth round, 97th overall. Who did they? I already revealed it. I was a little premature. So Dayton, who did you pick there?
It was a goalie, Michael Prattle. He plays with the Tri-City Storm of the USHL. I wrote a piece a little bit before this mock draft came out, arguing that the Senators needed a goalie. Now, of course, your best option is Joshua Ravensbergen. He is the top-ranked goalie coming into the draft. Some might argue that it's Jack Ivankovic. I don't think there is enough evidence. Ravensbergen has more overall success, I think, than Ivankovic. So he's almost certainly going to be the first guy off the board, probably a first-round pick. Probably in the Senators' range, right around that 20th, 21st to 25th is very likely where he goes. But, that's a big commitment with your first-round pick. So when I went into this draft, I committed to getting a goalie. I just wanted to figure out when. And with that fourth round, Michael Prattle was still available. He had been available in the 94th. I'd seen him there, made a mental note, and if he was still around, I was going to grab him with 97. And yeah, that's where I grabbed him. He's another very big player, 6'5". He had a very good transition to North America after only playing in Slovakia. He also looked really good at the under 18s. I think he gives the Senators a bit more depth. He's, of course, like all goalies, going to take some time, but it's a risk they I think need to take.
Sure, and he was a really standout in the USHL this year too. So I mean, he could be an under the radar type goaltender to go in the later rounds. He probably won't be a high pick, but definitely a team will be getting a good goalie around this area for sure. All right, moving to pick 149. I will not hit the button to look at it yet. Pick 149. Who did you choose there? So
I admitted in my mock draft at pick 149, my personal list is very short at this point. I didn't know a lot of the names coming up unless they were WHL guys. I've got pretty good familiarity with that. But I found a guy who I think is really interesting, and that's Erik Erikson, a Norwegian playing in the J20 National League in Sweden. He is the nephew of former NHLer Espen Knutson, who played with the Blue Jackets and Anaheim Ducks, I believe. And Eriksson scored 22 goals and 43 points in 40 games in the J20. He is, of course, 17, 18 years old. And that is a very impressive total playing against a lot of 20-year-olds. He's represented Norway a few times and looked very good at the Division 1A tournament. I believe he was one of the best players on the team, like the top 3 award that they give out. His skating isn't the greatest. Could use some improvement. He's also on the smaller side, which, the Senators have not been a fan of, but I am, and I'm drafting, so whatever. I saved it until later picks because you can take risks at that point. Oh, yeah. Really, really smart player, though. He shows just really high-end intelligence and creativity, finding ways to create plays. And so I think he's a long shot, but with a 5th-round pick right now, definitely worth that big swing.
Yeah, this is where you take those swings. I mean, you never know. I mean, a lot of the time these late round picks don't pan out, but sometimes they do. So I mean, this is where you take a swing on skill, and even if they are undersized, whatever, you never know what will happen with them down the line. So definitely a good pick at 149. All right, 181. We're jumping in lower into the draft here, deeper into the draft. Who did you snag here?
I added another defenseman, Lassi Boilius. He also played at the under-18s. Looked okay. He is a transitional defenseman. He plays a pretty good two-way game. He's got some pretty good defensive coverage. Not the highest offensive player, but you can't have everybody playing offense. Then who's going to stop the puck and break up those plays? He played big minutes in Finland's Liga. And, that's always impressive when you were doing so at such a young age. Mm-hmm. He is first-year eligible, I believe. I don't think I messed that up. I don't remember seeing him last year anyways. Just a really balanced defenseman, a guy that I hadn't been really paying attention to until after the under-18s. Mm-hmm. And with him available in the 6th round here, again, why not?
Yeah, he was really good at the under 18. So definitely he's going to be on the radar for a lot of teams. Probably this range, but we'll see where he goes. But yeah, a good pick there. All right, final pick, 213. This is way deep in the draft. And these are guys that you never know what will happen. But who did you get for 213?
I went with an overager, Anthony Christophoro. So I remember him being kind of a hot commodity for the 2024 draft. Mm-hmm. And he somehow didn't get picked. He put up a ton of points and went undrafted. There is a size concern. He is, he's a 5'11" defenseman. He is a pretty decent skater, as far as I remember from what I watched, and just couldn't get enough teams to notice him last year with his size and his point production. Mm-hmm. This year, he had huge point production. He almost doubled what he produced last year. Still a very solid defenseman, played on a vastly improved Windsor Spitfires team. He's also now 6 feet. So he's hit that golden number for NHL players, it seems. And he's also a right shot. So, a lot of those things seemed like a good risk. Senators used to love taking overage players right in the middle of the draft. Mm-hmm. That management group has left, but again, another good risk. I think this one's a bit safer, but also offers some decent upside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was surprised he wasn't drafted last year too. So, because I know I read quite a bit about him last year, and we'll see if he gets drafted this season. It didn't do him, he didn't make that an impossibility with what he did with his performance with the Windsor Spitfires, who were a really good team this year again. So last season not so much, but they bounced back, and he was a big part of that too. So definitely a good pick for the last pick for the Senators in this mock draft. All right, well, that's the draft class from that one. What did you think about it overall? I know you, in your article, you said if this is a realistic one. Do you think it was? Or, I mean, you already said Carter Bear's probably not going to be a guy that's going to be available, but what do you think about the rest of it?
I thought it was about half and half. So I don't see a 6'6" defenseman like Hao-Chi Wang falling to the 3rd round. I think he's gone in the 2nd. I'd almost put money on that. I'd bet that Carter Bear is gone probably in the top 20 picks. So probably just out of reach for the Senators. Even if he does fall to 20th, like I don't see him going past that. That's pretty late for a player who scored 40 goals. And he's like 6'1" as well. He's got the size that NHL teams need. He's just got that injury scare, and that hasn't scared teams in the past. Those two were big kind of, question marks for me. I took them in this draft because you'd be foolish to skip them. The rest I thought were pretty solid options. I could see Boilius being a late round ad. Erikson definitely will be a late round ad. Parattle kind of depends when the goalie run starts. I could see that starting kind of like really get going in the 3rd round there. So he might be around top of the 4th. There's a few guys that are definitely projected to go in that range anyways. Christophoro, who knows where he could end up. There could be somebody who really likes him in the 2nd round, and that would be a deserving pick. He could also fall into the 7th. Really tough to say. So yeah, I think some of these were really lucky picks, and others were, I think, very realistic picks.
Yeah, as you get later in the draft, for sure. Maybe the first couple, maybe, but you never know. Drafts are they're weird. I mean, there's guys that are all of a sudden available still, and you're like, why? And that's where they get picked, like Lane Hudson.
You never know.
Who just won the Calder Trophy, and he was almost a 3rd round pick. Who really?
I projected to win the Calder Trophy, if you remember.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
In our early season prediction stuff, that was my pick. I wanted to be different, and I picked Hudson because I thought he could score 50, and that's the magic defenseman number. 50 points, you'll get the Calder.
And he did. There we go. The theory holds true. All right. All right. Let's talk about some other 1st round draft targets that you have your eye on for the Senators. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are going to be available around that 21st pick. Who do you really think the Senators will have their eye on?
One of my favorites who I'm hoping falls to the Senators is Braden Coots. He fits the Senators mold really, really well. Very hard worker, very driven, has got some physicality, also very skilled. And I think he could work really well in like a potential second line pairing with whoever they put there at that time. The closer we get to the draft, the less I expect him to fall to that. It looks like he's going in the top 15. His massive breakout at the under 18s as team captain for Canada, who won gold, seems to have him, a very popular pick. And I was hoping he'd be underrated. Yeah, whatever. He is just a really fun player to watch, though. Another one is Ben Kindle. I think he could fall into that range. He's not quite as driven as Coots, but he has some really good offensive skill and some awareness. He does move pretty well as well. He'd be another good option. Ravensburgen, I mentioned him a little earlier. He'd be a solid option. Cole Reshny, he might fall to there. I see a few that project him to go to the Flames a little earlier. But if he does fall to the Senators, he'd be a really good center to pick up. He's a very, very smart player. He's just a guy who makes things happen around him. And I'm in the writer's mock draft, I ended up with Justin Carbonneau, which I didn't expect. That was another surprising one. Who was it? Ryan Sporer. He picked for the Canadians and had some pretty good arguments on why they wouldn't go Carbonneau, even though I think every mock draft I've read says the Canadians are going to pick Carbonneau. They want their French stars.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, maybe, but if he falls, like I couldn't believe it that when I kind of read that. So it's like, I guess the Senators are going Carbonneau. He's a guy who scores goals, and he has a really good shot, really good offensive awareness.
Yeah.
Good power forward, right? So those are kind of the top guys I'd be looking at. Maybe even Cullen Potter, very, very slick forward, a center. He's a little undersized, which might deter the Senators. I'd expect them to go for somebody probably around that 6'2", 6'1" range or bigger. That's their pattern. So I tried to follow that, at least with their early picks. But yeah, those are the guys I think might fit the Senators the best.
Do you think they would pick Ravensburgen, goaltender? I mean, he probably will go in the first round, but it is always, I mean, I don't know if it's a risk taking a goalie in the first round. I mean, it depends. But this will be the first time that a goalie's gone in the first round since Wallstead and Costa? I think I might be.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, because I don't think there's been a first round goalie for a while.
I'm pretty sure there wasn't last year.
There definitely wasn't one last year.
Yeah. 2023? Was that No, Costa was earlier than that.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
Yeah, do you think the Senators would actually pick him, or?
Probably not. He does have the size that would interest the Senators, but I think they're looking more at either defense or forward. I would pressure them to, if they're listening to me, to go for a forward. I think that is their best bet. I wouldn't be mad at Ravensburgen. I think he fits a very, looked over need. But I also don't think that he is head and shoulders above some of his competition. There's going to be other good goalies later on. And as long as the Senators grab at least one in this draft, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's not like a desperate thing for them to get. So kind of jumped the gun on a later question, but I just was wondering about Ravensburgen there. All right, late round steals. Do you have anyone that you're eyeing in the later rounds that you think the Senators could grab and actually really be looking at it as a steal? I know it's really early to say that, but there are some guys that could potentially be. We've had an article out this morning actually on some sleeper picks, but who do you have?
So I've got a few. With my mock draft piece, I went through like 3 or 4 guys that I also was looking at, and there was a few that didn't get drafted who I thought would have been pretty good fits. First is Savin Verk. He played with the Tri-City Americans. He was nearly a point per game after coming over from the BCHL. Plays a good all-around game, has a good drive. It's just a very small sample size, so I wonder if that kind of scares some people off. I think he will be drafted. He performed well enough to be selected by some team. But I would bet that would it be probably in 5th, 6th, or 7th round. Senators could grab someone like that. He looked pretty good. I saw him in his very first game in the WHL. Believe it or not, it was in Saskatoon. And he looked solid. Didn't quite stand out, but there was potential there. And I made note of that. Another WHLer in your neck of the woods, Aaron Obobaifo, who played a very small sample size this year because he went down with a nasty injury. Only 13 games, but he also had 6 goals and 10 points in that time. He's a little on the smaller side, but I could almost, expect him to break out next season. Like, he has just everything in the right place. He plays a very dynamic game from what I saw. I think he could work really well with Cameron Schmidt when they get going. And getting him with a late round pick because he only played 13 games this year could be a massive steal. And a goalie, since I kind of mentioned goalies already, Louis-Antoine Deneau, I believe is one of the tallest players available at 6'8". Played with Quebec Ramparts. Looked pretty solid. I didn't notice anything that made him really stand out, but also nothing that, raised any big red flags. And he could be something next year. Really tough to say with goalies, but at 6'8", maybe you find the next Ben Bishop, and that's always a fun possibility. A couple others I'll throw at you really quick. Lev Katzin. He was a standout at the under-18s for the Canadians. Very small. He'd be a big risk, at least for the Senators, who don't seem to like small guys. Luke Vluswick, another WHLer. He's a right-handed defensive defenseman with the Red Deer Rebels. Doesn't have as much upside as some of the other guys I took, but could be a decent selection. And then Jamiro Reber, a guy he's a Swiss hockey player who is an overager, but was pretty impressive at the World Juniors. And in the SHL playoffs, he was pretty good as well. I'm curious about what his, full upside is, but he meets a Senators need, and I think would be in the NHL sooner rather than later.
Yeah, all great guys to keep an eye on as the draft goes on, because like I said, these are where guys. I mean, the percentages are, a lot of these guys don't make it, but there are a lot of guys that do too. So you never know what can happen as you get deeper in the draft. So keep an eye out for those guys as the draft goes. All right, to finish off, we're going to just talk about what general needs for the Senators are going into this draft. Strategy. You could also talk about strategy. What do you think what they're looking at going in? But what do you think the Senators need the most coming in? I mean, the prospect pool's got pretty good players, but they're not the highest prospect pool, like we've talked about on Prospect Corner quite a bit. They're maybe in the mid, there's probably still in the lower range. But they have added some guys like Yakimchuk in recent years. And then you've got, Montgomery for the London Knights. It was a little bit of a surprise. So you never know. So they have maybe increased it. But where is their needs are? Where are their needs are?
Yeah. I would argue that they have needs everywhere. Yeah. They don't have a lot of high-end forwards. Blake Montgomery probably tops out at a second-line guy. I would expect him to be more of a third-liner. He's got some really good skills, some really good drive, some good size and strength. But I don't know. I'm not sure what his full offensive upside is. So I'd be curious to see how that goes. He had some ups and downs in the OHL in his first season. Javon Moore is another kind of this guy could be something, but probably not a first liner. Probably again, max third liner with potential to surprise. Yakimchuk, obviously he's going to be a top pairing guy. And then Levi Marilainen is looking like a potential starter, but at least a very good backup in the NHL. After that, you don't have a lot. You got maybe some bottom pairing guys. You got some depth forwards. So the Senators need skill. And I would argue that they have the biggest gap in skill on their forwards, especially when it comes to their goal scoring. They just don't have a lot of those guys who really drive the pace and put the puck in the net. I would hope that is their top priority, which is why I'd sort of steer away from getting a goalie in the first round. I think you'd want to prioritize getting one of those high-end forwards, center or winger. I think both could use some help in the Senator system. Their defense is also not great after Yakimchuk. Jorian Donovan looks okay, but he was always just kind of projected to be a guy. Yeah. Maxence Gwinnett is someone who could surprise, but also could be nothing. He's kind of second pairing right shot defenseman. Incredible. He's an AHL guy forever. Yeah. Both are entirely likely. That's about it. So some more defensemen would be good. I just don't know if you want to use a first round pick on one of them, especially 21st. Blake Fiddler might be a guy you could grab. He's not my favorite. I didn't see a lot that I loved when I've watched him. A lot I liked, not a lot I loved. And I thought there was other guys in that range who fit that better. So I'd take some bigger swings later on. Maybe someone like a David Bydkowski, who could fall into the third round. He's big and mean and got a right shot. And I thought he was interesting. So kind of everywhere I'd like to see them improve, but mostly I want to see them get a high impact scoring forward.
which I mean, there are a few in the first round around that area of the 20s. And you could even, I mean, you know, like I say, when it gets down to the draft and some guys, some teams where they pick a guy way higher than they should. And the Senators have done it. Tyler Boucher, we all know that messed up a bit of that top part of the draft. And you know, the Montreal Canadiens did it with Kotkaniemi, picking him way earlier than he was projected. That pushed guys around, down. You know, I mean, teams can just really mess up the order that we're talking about right now, and that pushes people down. So you don't know who's going to be available around that range, and you could get someone there. So we'll see what the Senators do. But thanks, Dayton, for coming on and talking about the Senators and the draft coming up, going through their mock draft. We're going to have a lot more draft content coming out as the draft gets closer, which is we're a little over 2 weeks away from the draft in Los Angeles, 27th and 28th. So stay tuned throughout as we keep going. We got the draft guide live. We got almost 150 profiles now, lots of features, lots of mock drafts. And we had the writers mock draft just come out. So take a look at that if you haven't already. Dayton put that together. We had a bunch of writers take the teams that they covered and also covered other teams that weren't covered by anyone else. But yeah, take a look at that article. It's a little long because it is 32 picks. But you can scroll through and take a read. So make sure you're checking that out. But until our next video, we will see you next time.